Ever wondered how to build your own translation tool using C# and WinForms? Well, today, we're making that happen. What is DeepL? DeepL is one of the most advanced AI-powered translation services, offering highly accurate translations for over 20 languages. Many say it's even better than Google Translate. And the best part? DeepL offers a free API so we can integrate it into our own applications. Here's what we'll build. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a fully functional translator that takes user input, sends it to the DeepL API, and displays the translated text instantly. No more switching tabs to translate text. Just type, select a language, and boom, translation done. Let's get started. Alright, let's dive into step 1, creating the C# project. As a first step, we need to know which API we can use and what it is called. On the DeepL site, more precisely in the API documentation, we can find everything we need. There are libraries for various programming languages here. Since we use C#, we can see that we can use a suitable NuGet package that we can integrate into our project. On the NuGet page we can find additional useful information about the API and how to use it. So let's put the package into our project first. This is very easy with the NuGet Packet Manager. Just a few clicks and all the necessary references are installed. So that was it. Pretty simple so far, right? Next, let's build a small layout for our translator. Just a few rich text boxes and for the text and the translation, comma boxes to set the source and target language and a button to start the translation. You can of course still customize the layout to make it a little prettier, but for now these are the necessary controls. Now that we have integrated the necessary API and created the layout, we can start with the actual code. Well, almost. To be able to make API calls later, we still need an API key. For this we can create a free account on the DeepL homepage. All we need is a few details such as name, address and a credit card. Why DeepL requires a credit card for the DeepL API free account, even though it is free? A credit card helps DeepL track suspicious activity and reduce fraudulent signups. Will you be charged automatically? No. As long as you stay within the free tier limit, you won't be charged. To make sure you don't exceed the limit, monitor your usage in DeepL API account settings if necessary. You can remove your credit card later. After that is done, you can copy and paste the API key into our code. We can then simply create a variable for the translator and a dictionary for the desired languages. That's it for variables. Directly at startup, we call a newly created method that takes care of initializing the translator and the language. I will explain it to you step by step after the creation. Let's break down the initialize_translator method step by step and understand what it does. First, we create a DeepL translator object using the API key. This object will allow us to send translation requests later. Next, we create a dictionary of available languages. This dictionary maps the language names, like German or French, to their corresponding DeepL language codes. This helps us display readable language names in the user interface while keeping the correct DeepL API codes internally. Step 3. Clear combo box items. This ensures that if the method runs multiple times, it won't add duplicate entries. Step 4. Populate the language dropdowns. We loop through the dictionary and add each language name to both combo boxes. This allows users to select a language by its name instead of entering a code manually. Finally, we set default values for the dropdowns. So, in summary, this method initializes the DeepL translator, defines a list of supported languages, clears and populates the dropdowns, and sets default selections. This prepares our translation tool for use. With this setup, users can select languages easily and start translating right away. If you want to add more languages or fetch them dynamically from the DeepL API, you can modify the dictionary accordingly. Now that we understand this setup, let's move forward and implement the actual translation feature. Now, let's go through the translate method step by step to understand how it handles text translation. When the user clicks the translate button, the first thing we do is retrieve the text that needs to be translated. We store this text in the input text variable using RTB input, which gets the text from the input text box. Next, we create two empty string variables, source lang and target lang. These will hold the language codes for the selected source and target languages. At this point, they are empty, and we will set their values based on the user's selection in the next steps. Now, we check if the selected item in the source language combo box exists in our dictionary. If it does, we retrieve the corresponding DeepL language code and store it in source lang. This ensures that instead of using the full name of the language like German or French, we are using the proper DeepL code such as DE or FR. We repeat the same process for the target language. If the selected language exists in our dictionary, we retrieve its corresponding DeepL code and store it in target lang. Now we have both source and target language codes ready for translation. Before we proceed, we need to make sure that all necessary data is provided. We check if input text is empty, or if source lang and target lang are not set. If any of these values are missing, we display an error message using message box show and stop the method from executing further. This prevents sending an invalid request to DeepL and ensures that the user has selected both a source and a target language. Now that everything is validated, we call the DeepL API to perform the translation. We use the translate text async method from our translator object and pass in the input text, source language, and target language. Since this is an asynchronous operation, we use the await keyword to wait for the API response without freezing the application. Finally, once the translation is complete, we take the result and display it in the output-rich text box. We do this by setting RTB_output text to the translated text. Now, the translated text appears in the output field, ready for the user to read or copy. So, what does this method do overall? It retrieves the user input and selected languages. It ensures that all necessary fields are filled. It sends the translation request to the DeepL API. And finally, it displays the translated text in the output field. With this, our translation button is fully functional. Now that we understand how this works, let's move forward and test our application in action. And there you have it. We've successfully built our own translator tool using C#, WinForms, and the DeepL API. Let's quickly recap what we accomplished in this tutorial. We started by setting up our project and getting access to the free DeepL API. We created a user-friendly interface where users can input text, select source and target languages, and get instant translations. We connected everything using the DeepL API, handled language selections, and displayed the translated text in real time. Now, you have a fully functional translator tool that works just like any professional translation app. Of course, development never stops. There are plenty of ways to upgrade and expand this translator. Auto-detect source language, add more supported languages, implement a text-to-speech feature, save translation history, translate entire files. Building this tool has given us a solid foundation in working with APIs, handling JSON data, and creating a useful real-world application with C#. And the best part? This is just the beginning. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more, and leave a comment if you have any questions or ideas for improvements. Thanks for watching, and happy coding!
Hehehehe